Hey everyone, welcome back to another video if you've watched me unbox this Fractal Design Ridge. This is going to be a case swap of my current computer case, which is the Lee T150, to this case. I had to switch the cooler because I have currently, I don't know if you can see it, but I have a Wraith Prism cooler. I'm going to be reusing my old Wraith Stealth cooler because this is 53 millimeters if I recall, and the max this case can support is 70 millimeters from what I've googled. So we got to do a few things. We got to switch the cooler to this one and take everything out from here into here. So let's get started. So we got my RX 6600. This is the Gigabyte Eagle model. Yeah, nothing special, just a ordinary video card. And here is my basically entire system. I got a 2 terabyte i7 Evo and a 1 terabyte Kingston drive, the A2000. That's one case empty. All right, so I got all my components. I got my video card, my motherboard. I switched the cooler out already, and I got the I/O shield. I got my 2 terabyte SSD and my power supply. All right, I have gotten this far. I have installed the GPU riser adapter. Amount of mess here with cables, but everything's plugged in. I got the fans plugged in. I got the CPU power connected in, the audio connector, 24 pin, the USB and Type-C connectors are in, the front umbilicals are connected. Look at this cable clutter, but it's the best it's going to be, and honestly, as long as it doesn't cause problems with putting back the side panel, I'm okay with this, because honestly, no one's going to see this. It's got no window. Let's install the graphics card, and now I got to take off this top panel right here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 screws just to hold this top bracket in. Unbelievable. All right, so we finished pretty much installing everything. I just put in the 2.5-inch SSD. You get access to the SSD back here, which I really like. Everything is in. Installing the graphics card, I think, is one of the worst part about this case, because it's not only just these screws and these screws, but you need to take off the screws on the other side. So you got another 2 right here. You also have to take off the top fan screws, just the top ones, not the bottom ones, and another screws right here. So you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12. 12 screws just to take off the video card. All right, so it's the next day. Oh, here it is. I swapped out the fans for these Noctua fans I had in my Lee. So this is the SSD compartment. You got a very tight space in the back here. And not to mention, just to get these 2 cables, it was just such a pain to get the cables in there. But the nice thing is you don't have to screw these SSDs in. They have little, as you guys can see, like little ball points. You just put in the SSD and you're in. That's a nice thing about the Lee. This SSD area would be covered with the frame, the nice thing about this is like now, if I never want to upgrade this to a bigger M.2 SSD, I can easily get access to it. I would recommend going M.2 SSDs on this case because just you have to put more cables into the SATA SSD. It just makes sense to buy M.2 SSDs. And since ITX motherboards only have two ports, you're pretty much better off just buying a larger capacity SSD, save your money, and buy another larger capacity SSD. If I ever had to upgrade my storage, I would definitely buy an M.2 and I would replace it with a 2 or 4 terabyte down the line. Right now, I'm okay for space. So I'll show you guys the other side. So I wrapped the PCI Express cable to the frame of the fan. So I got one down here and another down here, more or less just to keep this cable in place so it doesn't touch the fan, because you know anything can happen when you're moving. Show you guys the other side. So here's the other side. I had the 24 pin and the 8 pin all around here. All I did was I put it way under and I wrapped it down here under the power supply, because there is a little gap where you can put cables down there. There's the audio cable, and it's such a thick cable because of the shroud. It's not gonna let it go through. So I'm just gonna leave it as is, because you know the shroud is like pretty much acting like a fan barrier, so the cables don't go to the CPU fan. Well, there you go. It's ready to go. Well, in conclusion, here it is right beside my T150. It's about half the thickness of the case. But yeah, it's been a fantastic case, but it's not easy to work on. I think, in my opinion, it really uses too many screws, like 8 to 10 more screws than what is necessary. In my opinion, I think taking off the GPU is going to be a challenge for a lot of people, especially people who always upgrade their graphics cards every year. You're going to dread working on this case. So just working on this case will be a little bit of a challenge for a lot of people. So I would recommend not for beginners for this kind of case. More or less go with standard traditional cases. Like the T150 is a fantastic case for a lot of beginners because it's very, very roomy, but just big for people who are looking for small form factor. So that's the comparison between my T150, and I wanted to compare the size difference of my PS5. There you go. There's the size difference between the two. But the PS5 is shorter in terms of length. One thing I did experience problems is the PCI riser. If you leave it on auto on my motherboard settings, it causes weird, when I turn on my computer, the cursor, the mouse cursor, would be very laggy, but if I turned it off and turn it back on, it goes back to normal. So I have a feeling every time I want to use my computer, I would have to turn it off and turn it back on and turn it off and turn it back on again. So I went to my motherboard BIOS and I switched it to PCI Gen 3. And so far I've had no issues, and I don't think there's a difference in performance wise, unless there's like a 1 to 2 FPS difference, which doesn't really matter. Haven't had any issues so far, no overheating, and everything's working just fine. I think this is a really good case. I've had no regrets so far. unless down the line if I ever want to switch my graphics card, which you've seen in the time lapse when I was putting everything back together. You got the top panel, you got the bottom panel. Before the top panel, you got to put that bracket back on, and then you got the two side panels. And yeah, I think it's more work. I think the T150 was a lot easier to work on, but that's the challenges of small form factor computer cases. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or whatever so forth about this case, or you have any opinions about it, you can leave a comment down below. If you want to like the video, it's up to you. And I will hopefully you guys see you in another video if I ever make any more videos. Take care.